Innovation Smart School Online Expo 2021. Satu klik solusi bisnis fashion. Innovation adalah pameran online internasional yang berfokus pada pengembangan produk ekspor dan peningkatan penjualan produk dalam negeri di industri tekstil dan alas kaki.
Pameran ini dibagi ke dalam 4 kategori: raw material, supporting, ready to wear, dan footwear. Dapatkan berbagai keuntungan di pameran ini. Perluas dan perkuat koneksi bisnis Anda. Temukan brand dan produk Indonesia yang berkualitas. Dapatkan update tren dan market fashion terkini, dan bangun serta kembangkan skill kamu dalam berbisnis fashion. Jelajahi pameran ini dengan berbagai fitur. Temukan exhibitor yang cocok dengan bisnis Anda melalui B2B matching. Realisasikan transaksi bisnis Anda dengan video conference call. Dapatkan produk lokal yang berkualitas dan murah di diskon hall kami. Tingkatkan kemampuan berbisnis Anda dengan mengikuti talkshow dan workshop bersama narasumber dari brand ternama. Nikmati paduan produk-produk lokal Indonesia dalam fashion show. Semua ini gratis loh, Anda tidak perlu kemana-mana, dijamin aman, cepat, dan nyaman. Tunggu apa lagi? Daftar sekarang!
Masak apa nih?
Buat buka puasa dong.
Mau masak apa aja? Digital bisa.
Mau belajar ngaji dulu ah. Belajar ngaji.
Mau belajar ngaji? Digital bisa. Mau kemana?
Mau tausiah dong.
Mau tausiah dari rumah? Digital bisa.
Saat ada kecoa, HP kreditan dihempas mertua. Ambil hikmahnya. Di Blibli Hikmah Ramadan. Bisa beli yang baru, dapat cashback hingga 1 juta rupiah untuk semua produk. Yuk, Blibli sekarang.
Lazada Ramadan Sale ada diskon hingga 90% dan cashback tiap hari. Beli sekarang ya.
Innovation Smesco Online Expo 2021. Satu klik solusi bisnis fashion. Innovation adalah pameran online internasional yang berfokus pada pengembangan produk ekspor dan peningkatan penjualan produk dalam negeri di industri tekstil dan alas kaki.
Pameran ini dibagi ke dalam 4 kategori: raw material, supporting, ready to wear, dan footwear. Dapatkan berbagai keuntungan di pameran ini. Perluas dan perkuat koneksi bisnis Anda. Temukan brand dan produk Indonesia yang berkualitas. Dapatkan update tren dan market fashion terkini, dan bangun serta kembangkan skill kamu dalam berbisnis fashion. Jelajahi pameran ini dengan berbagai fitur. Temukan exhibitor yang cocok dengan bisnis Anda melalui B2B matching. Realisasikan transaksi bisnis Anda dengan video conference call. Dapatkan produk lokal yang berkualitas dan murah di diskon hall kami. Tingkatkan kemampuan berbisnis Anda dengan mengikuti talkshow dan workshop bersama narasumber dari brand ternama. Nikmati paduan produk-produk lokal Indonesia dalam fashion show. Semua ini gratis loh, Anda tidak perlu kemana-mana, dijamin aman, cepat, dan nyaman. Tunggu apa lagi? Daftar sekarang!
Masak apa nih?
Buat buka puasa dong.
Mau masak apa aja? Digital bisa.
Mau belajar ngaji dulu ah. Belajar ngaji.
Mau belajar ngaji? Digital bisa.
Mau kemana? Mau tausiah dong.
Mau tausiah dari rumah? Digital bisa.
Saat ada kecoa, HP kreditan dihempas mertua. Ambil hikmahnya. Di Blibli Hikmah Ramadan. Bisa beli yang baru, dapat cashback hingga 1 juta rupiah untuk semua produk. Yuk, Blibli sekarang.
Lazada Ramadan Sale ada diskon hingga 90% dan cashback tiap hari. Beli sekarang ya.
Innovation Smesco Online Expo 2021. Satu klik solusi bisnis fashion. Innovation adalah pameran online internasional yang berfokus pada pengembangan produk ekspor dan peningkatan penjualan produk dalam negeri di industri tekstil dan alas kaki.
Pameran ini dibagi ke dalam 4 kategori: raw material, supporting, ready to wear, dan footwear. Dapatkan berbagai keuntungan di pameran ini. Perluas dan perkuat koneksi bisnis Anda. Temukan brand dan produk Indonesia yang berkualitas. Dapatkan update tren dan market fashion terkini, dan bangun serta kembangkan skill kamu dalam berbisnis fashion. Jelajahi pameran ini dengan berbagai fitur. Temukan exhibitor yang cocok dengan bisnis Anda melalui B2B matching. Realisasikan transaksi bisnis Anda dengan video conference call. Dapatkan produk lokal yang berkualitas dan murah di diskon hall kami. Tingkatkan kemampuan berbisnis Anda dengan mengikuti talkshow dan workshop bersama narasumber dari brand ternama. Nikmati paduan produk-produk lokal Indonesia dalam fashion show. Semua ini gratis loh, Anda tidak perlu kemana-mana, dijamin aman, cepat, dan nyaman. Tunggu apa lagi? Daftar sekarang!
Masak apa nih?
Buat buka puasa dong.
Mau masak apa aja? Digital bisa.
Mau belajar ngaji dulu ah. Belajar ngaji.
Mau belajar ngaji? Digital bisa.
Mau kemana? Mau tausiah dong.
Mau tausiah dari rumah? Digital bisa.
Saat ada kecoa, HP kreditan dihempas mertua. Ambil hikmahnya. Di Blibli Hikmah Ramadan. Bisa beli yang baru, dapat cashback hingga 1 juta rupiah untuk semua produk. Yuk, Blibli sekarang.
Lazada Ramadan Sale ada diskon hingga 90% dan cashback tiap hari. Beli sekarang ya.
Innovation Smesco Online Expo 2021. Satu klik solusi bisnis fashion. Innovation adalah pameran online internasional yang berfokus pada pengembangan produk ekspor dan peningkatan penjualan produk dalam negeri di industri tekstil dan alas kaki.
Pameran ini dibagi ke dalam 4 kategori: raw material, supporting, ready to wear, dan footwear. Dapatkan berbagai keuntungan di pameran ini. Perluas dan perkuat koneksi bisnis Anda. Temukan brand dan produk Indonesia yang berkualitas. Dapatkan update tren dan market fashion terkini, dan bangun serta kembangkan skill kamu dalam berbisnis fashion. Jelajahi pameran ini dengan berbagai fitur. Temukan exhibitor yang cocok dengan bisnis Anda melalui B2B matching. Realisasikan transaksi bisnis Anda dengan video conference call. Dapatkan produk lokal yang berkualitas dan murah di diskon hall kami. Tingkatkan kemampuan berbisnis Anda dengan mengikuti talkshow dan workshop bersama narasumber dari brand ternama. Nikmati paduan produk-produk lokal Indonesia dalam fashion show. Semua ini gratis loh, Anda tidak perlu kemana-mana, dijamin aman, cepat, dan nyaman. Tunggu apa lagi? Daftar sekarang!
Masak apa nih?
Buat buka puasa dong.
Mau masak apa aja? Digital bisa.
Mau belajar ngaji dulu ah. Belajar ngaji.
Mau belajar ngaji? Digital bisa.
Mau kemana? Mau tausiah dong.
Mau tausiah dari rumah? Digital bisa.
Saat ada kecoa, HP kreditan dihempas mertua. Ambil hikmahnya. Di Blibli Hikmah Ramadan. Bisa beli yang baru, dapat cashback hingga 1 juta rupiah untuk semua produk. Yuk, Blibli sekarang.
Lazada Ramadan Sale ada diskon hingga 90% dan cashback tiap hari. Beli sekarang ya.
Innovation Smesco Online Expo 2021. Satu klik solusi bisnis fashion. Innovation adalah pameran online internasional yang berfokus pada pengembangan produk ekspor dan peningkatan penjualan produk dalam negeri di industri tekstil dan alas kaki.
Pameran ini dibagi ke dalam 4 kategori: raw material, supporting, ready to wear, dan footwear. Dapatkan berbagai keuntungan di pameran ini. Perluas dan perkuat koneksi bisnis Anda. Temukan brand dan produk Indonesia yang berkualitas. Dapatkan update tren dan market fashion terkini, dan bangun serta kembangkan skill kamu dalam berbisnis fashion. Jelajah.
Innovation Smesco Online Expo 2021. Satu klik solusi bisnis fashion.
Inifd sudah berdiri selama 23 tahun dan berada di 20 negara besar seperti Inggris, Dubai, Kanada, dan Prancis. Di Indonesia sendiri, Inifd hanya ada di Indonesia, yaitu di tempat kami di Mangga 2 Square. Inifd bertujuan untuk melahirkan para fashion designer muda dan berbakat yang nantinya bisa membawa nama besar Indonesia.
Saya Jessica, saya student di Inifd Jakarta.
Halo, nama saya Fauzi. Saya adalah alumni Inifd.
lagi pada Talkshow Innovation Smesco Online Expo 2021, satu klik solusi bisnis fashion, di mana tema talkshow kita hari ini adalah Batik Industry Not Only for Local, yang pastinya akan memberikan kita banyak wawasan baru yang bisa didapat dari talkshow hari ini. Perkenalkan, saya Melisa Lauren dan saya akan memandu acara talkshow pada sore hari ini. Dan hari ini kita kedatangan tamu spesial sebagai narasumber kita, yaitu Jesus Quedano yang merupakan seorang batik fashion designer dari Venezuela. Nah, buat kalian yang belum tahu juga nih, acara ini ada di dalam naungan Innovation Smesco Online Expo 2021, di mana Innovation Smesco Online Expo 2021 ini adalah pameran virtual untuk semua calon dan entrepreneur yang bergerak di dalam bidang fashion, terutama industri tekstil dan alas kaki. Sebagai upaya untuk meningkatkan ekonomi nasional terutama pada bidang fashion, acara ini memberikan peluang kepada para pelaku industri fashion untuk meraih keuntungan di masa pandemik dengan bertemu para pembeli dari dalam maupun dari luar negeri. Dan sekarang kita sudah kedatangan Ibu Mia Apilia selaku Center Manager Inifd Indonesia yang akan memperkenalkan sedikit ke kita mengenai Inifd itu sendiri. Hai Ibu Mia.
Hai Melisa, apa kabar?
Iya, baik Bu. Ibu sendiri apa kabar?
Baik, sehat.
Oke, jadi Inifd Indonesia itu apa sih Bu?
Oke, mungkin bagi yang belum tahu Inifd itu apa ya. Jadi Inifd itu Sekolah Fashion Design Global yang ada di Jakarta. Nah, di dunia sendiri itu kita ada di 25 kota besar seperti di London, di Los Angeles, di Dubai, di New Delhi, di Dubai, dan banyak lagi. Nah, jadi emang Inifd itu kita untuk program Inifd kita memberikan 2 sertifikasi. Jadi sertifikatnya ganda. Sertifikat ganda itu dari Inifd Global dan satu lagi dari London School of Trends, which is dari London. Nah, jadi Inifd ini memberikan kemudahan untuk para pecinta fashion yang ingin belajar fashion design, nggak usah jauh-jauh ke luar negeri, tapi cukup belajar di Jakarta aja bisa dapat sertifikat dari London. Jadi pastinya kan bakal lebih irit ya, Mel. Dari segi pendidikannya lebih murah, dari segi living cost-nya juga lebih murah. Nah, udah gitu, kurikulum kita memang standar internasional. Dan gurunya pun juga seru-seru banget, masih muda, tapi walaupun masuk muda, mereka tuh berpengalaman banget di bidangnya, dan rata-rata memang lulusan dari luar, seperti dari Paris, dari London, gitu. Nah, untuk si Inifd sendiri memang kita sesuai dengan yang kita berikan ke murid itu, kita memberikan kemudahan dalam belajar. Jadi nantinya itu dengan hanya 1 tahun belajar di Inifd, semua student Inifd nantinya pada saat lulus sudah siap ke dunia kerja, yang pastinya di dunia fashion. Nah, untuk menuju ke mereka sudah siap dunia kerja itu, di Inifd itu nggak cuma belajar aja, Mel, tapi kita juga ada program magang. Program magangnya seperti contohnya yang tahun lalu itu kita sempat kerjasama juga. Nah, Inifd itu membuatkan baju untuk Menteri Pemberdayaan Perempuan dan Anak. Terus Inifd juga sempat membuatkan baju untuk dubes-dubes seperti dubes Rusia, dubes Zimbabwe, dubes Rumania, dan dubes Armenia. Gitu, Mel.
Oh, oke. Berarti bisa dibilang melalui Inifd ini berubah pandangan ya, Bu ya. Berarti sekolah fashion nggak melulu harus ke luar negeri dan membutuhkan biaya yang mahal ya. Oke.
Bener banget. Ya, jadi memang kita di Inifd itu untuk harga yang lumayan affordable, dan kebetulan banget nih untuk saat ini tuh kita lagi ada potongan 50% berupa beasiswa. Jadi kalau misalnya emang bagi kalian yang tertarik untuk ingin melanjutkan sekolah fashion design, bisa nih kunjungin booth-nya Inifd yang ada di pameran Innovation Smesco Online ini. Kita ada di Hall Nusantara, Mel. Nah, nanti di situ kalian bisa bebas tanya-tanya ke timnya Inifd mengenai program belajar Inifd, terus juga bebas juga kalau misalnya kalian mau lihat karya-karya student yang udah lulus tuh, Mel. Jadi kalau saya pengen lihat kan bajunya kayak apa sih yang udah dibikin sama murid-murid Inifd, nah itu ada semuanya di situ gitu.
Oke, lengkap lah ya Bu, berarti intinya semuanya
lengkap
ada.
Banget. Jadi Inifd itu seperti belajar singkat, mungkin bisa dibilang foundation. Kalau misalnya memang anak-anak yang emang suka fashion design mau lanjut sekolah ke luar negeri, bisa foundationnya di Inifd dulu. gitu. Atau mau langsung kerja juga bisa Mel. Jadi semua lebih terserah si anak sih maunya seperti apa gitu.
Oke, kalau untuk di acara ini sendiri Bu, keterlibatan Inifd di Innovation Mesco Online ini apa Bu?
Nah, ini banyak banget Mel acara-acara yang emang Inifd kerjasama sama Innovation Mesco Online ini. Nah, dari sebelum si pameran ini mulai, kita udah ngadain fashion drawing competition. Nah, itu dengan juri Dinda Puspitasari. Nah, terus satu lagi kita ada outfit of the day competition yang berakhir nanti tanggal 29 April. Nah, untuk si outfit of the day ini yang akan dibagi dalam 4 minggu dengan tema-tema berbeda Mel. Nah, untuk yang tema terakhir di minggu terakhir ini itu temanya denim. Jadi untuk kalian yang suka bergaya pakai jeans itu ikutan deh foto-foto selfie kirim lewat Instagram. Jadi semuanya lewat Instagram. Nanti bakal ada hadiahnya. Nah, ini pengumumannya juga bareng-bareng nanti sama si fashion drawing competition itu, yaitu di tanggal 30 April di acara closing ceremony-nya Innovation jam 3 sore. Oh iya, untuk jurinya, si Outfit of the Day Competition ini kita ada 2 juri yang terkenal loh Mel. Jadi ada Hartono Hosea, yaitu dia fotografer yang pastinya dia akan menilai dari segi fotonya, teknik fotonya seperti apa. Dan satu lagi kita ada Karen Vandela, dia adalah fashion entrepreneur. Nah, jadi dia itu akan menilai dari segi mix and match bajunya seperti apa gitu. Nah, terus kemarin itu kita sempat ada talk show bareng sama fashion designer dari India yaitu Ashley Rebello. Terus kita juga ada fashion show itu juga udah lewat. Nah, terus ada juga kita bikin 2 workshop di kemarin tanggal Sabtu dan hari Minggu. Workshop pertama kita bikin kain dengan teknik ecoprint yaitu pewarnaan dan pembuatan motif dengan secara natural. Dan satu lagi kita kemarin ada workshop bikin jaket yang water resistant. Nah, itu semua kan udah lewat tuh Mel. Tapi jangan takut deh, kalian tuh tetap bisa nonton di channel YouTube-nya Innovation Mesco Online. Nah, jadi kalau misalnya emang ketinggalan atau misalnya mau nonton acara ini nih yang sekarang juga lewat channel YouTube yang sama. Jadi untuk siapa yang udah ketinggalan tetap bisa nonton Mel. Gitu.
Oke, berarti yang sekarang masih bisa diikutin itu lomba OOTD-nya ya Bu ya berarti?
Lomba OOTD masih ada sampai tanggal 29 terakhir submitnya lewat Instagram. Nah, terus kita masih ada dan tanggal 30 itu kan ada pengumuman pemenang. Nah, di acara pengumuman pemenang itu kita juga ada kasih acara mini workshop bikin 3D illustration gitu. Nah, terus yang nanti nih kita yang sekarang bakal kita lihat tuh ada talk show dari Jesus Kedeno gitu.
Oke, berarti banyak banget ya Bu acara-acara yang menarik ya pastinya.
Iya, bisa ditonton tuh lewat channel YouTube-nya Innovation Mesco Online. Jadi di situ tuh semua acara yang ada di event Innovation Mesco Online ada di situ semua tuh Mel. Bisa tinggal buka deh channel YouTube-nya. Gitu deh.
Oke, kalau begitu terima kasih kepada Ibu Mia atas pengenalannya. Pengenalan INFD. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let's proceed to our main agenda today, which is the talk show. And for this talk show, we have Miss Roshni as our moderator and Mr. Jesus Kedeno as our guest speaker. For Miss Roshni and Mr. Jesus Kedeno, the time is yours.
Hai Melissa.
Yes, Miss Roshni.
Yeah, sorry, I just got connected to the audio, so I didn't hear your introduction.
Yeah, that's okay at all. Now you may proceed to the main agenda, which is the talk show.
Yes, of course. So, hello everybody who has joined this talk show today. I'm Miss Roshni. I'm from the International Institute of Fashion Design in Jakarta. I'm one of the teachers here, and I teach mainly fashion concept and textiles. So today we are going to be talking about batik industry in Indonesia with Venezuelan designer Jesus Cadeno. And now Jesus has been working with batik for so long now. He has studied the craft and he is building his batik brand here in Jakarta. Now, Jesus, can you please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey in fashion? And along the way, we're going to be watching a fashion show that he has produced recently.
Hi, how are you doing, everyone? Thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation to have me here today. It's
Thank you so
really
much
good
for
to have.
being here.
It's really good to have a cool space to showcase like your work and like to keep bringing the information about batik all around the world and even in Indonesia, which is where it's more important to make solid these materials. I've been working, so I graduated in fashion design in Venezuela in 2014. But in the last 2 years before graduating, I was part of the team that collaborated with the Indonesian embassy in Caracas, Venezuela for, yeah, it's more or less around 2.5 years. We created, so the embassy created a club called the Chanting Club, which it was a club to promote batik. So once a month, we used to meet and gather to design batik and study and get a wider knowledge about what batik was about. So that's basically like how everything started that way back in 2012, 2012. Then I graduated in fashion in Venezuela and I got a scholarship to specialize in batik in Yogyakarta for 1 year. So I moved all the way from Caracas to Indonesia in August 2014.
Wow, that's
Yeah, it's quite a long time. So I arrived here in August to study the batik technique, the handmade technique of batik in Yogyakarta. In like the translation of the school is to be the teacher training center for art and culture. So it's basically post-grade studies that helps you to like it promotes the fact that you can later on teach batik and like spread information about like heritage of Indonesia. And then I moved to Jakarta. Like after I finished the studies, I moved here, and I was like, I wanted to settle on and build a brand for good. It was, I mean, it's the best place to live is where batik is produced. Like I got some questions sometimes about if I can produce batik in other places around the world, which could be possible. I know there is people who do it, but you lose the direct contact of creating new things on batik and getting the knowledge of what's the new thing about what's happening in batik every day, you know. So that's one of the things that keeps me here. But yeah, it's really cool to be producing since 2000. So in 2015, I moved to Jakarta, and the brand is based since July 2015 until nowadays. That's wow. Yeah, that's quite a long time. The brand has developed first the cocktail women line, and then we developed the men's collection, and now we are going to go for accessories and home. So now we are going to have a Susadeño home and the accessories, which are clutches and jewelry. But that's a little bit upfront. It's one of the further projects for the brand. But its base is specialized on heritage of Indonesia and how to promote the Indonesian textile and Indonesian print. That's
wow,
basically
such a beautiful journey. I mean, must have been so overwhelming and great at the same time to learn so much about batik, especially from the artisans and the masters themselves in Yogyakarta.
Yes, it's incredible. I mean,
Mhm.
once you're there, you like as a new student foreigner, like get in contact with
Mhm.
Yogyakarta culture, Yogyakarta people. That is, it's in a student city, so you go all around the city, and you go all around the place, and you're like, I mean, it's one of my favorite places in Indonesia. You go in every corner, there is a dancer, a musician. It's a really cultural place, a place full of arts and people crafting things everywhere. It's really shocking that the like when you get the proper contact of batik, because when I was in Venezuela, when we were making the project that stills run nowadays, the Champion Club, like we produce small pieces. We had the opportunity to make the first batik of 2.5 meters, which is basically the standard size. We made it. We were 6 artists, 6, 7 art. I forgot if it was 6 or 8 artists. We made it about the traditional Venezuelan masks, and but that was it. Like everyone had a part, but never for the fact that having to produce a full batik by your own. So that's a big movement, and I remember like all these mentors and all these people were like, well, the first thing they tell you is like, well, welcome to a class of batik. This is about patience. This is a place where you build your patience, when you build
Definitely.
your soul. And I was like, yeah. And so what is the pensum? What is the program? What is everything? But then step by step, like you're getting used to the fact that it is about patience. It teaches you a lot, like
it's a long process.
in life of like cool down, chill, and let's make it happen. So that somehow like the philosophy that batik gives to those makers to like for a way of living, it's impressive the way they decide to, like, they have the rhythm, they have their own like passion, movement, and senses. It's not like, and some people, like, when you have the impression of a foreigner into Indonesia, they're like, oh yeah, they're slow. And I'm like, yeah, they're meant to be slow. They're meant to be it's not like they're slow, it's like that's their path. They have to be precise, they have to be careful, they have to be patient enough to like create those pieces and create those details. Like you cannot rush in a piece that you work for 6 months, and I mean you can damage it in the way. So somehow you have to keep yourself like really centered, like really focus on what are you making. You know, it's not it doesn't have the facilities of the contemporary ways of modern technologies and computers and platforms and digital science and so on. That's what it makes it so rich and so beautiful, like so loaded of heritage, of the history of like all these backgrounds that gives batik the formality that should bring the respect for it. You know, it's
Yes, definitely. Why don't we look at some of the batik garments that you've made? Tobias, could you please play the fashion show video that Yesus
sure
has done?
Enjoy the show. Sure, and this collection is quite particular though. So this is collection, even though um, I mean I needed to bring like the elegance and the red carpet flow of to the design, but at the same time I wanted to be like colorful. I wanted to be powerful. I wanted to be loaded of that Indonesian traditional heritage and those motifs. So like that's why like the batiks, the motifs are quite first they are like quite big motifs because they can be um, seen from a really good distance, but they keep like really traditional uh, design. So we had the parangs at the beginning with like really big colorful flowers, but I mean it's like a really traditional, and it's probably one of the most traditional icons in batik. But this one was like a flowery, colorful, playful way to make it. Then in this collection is included a collaboration with a polymer from Vital. It's a company that creates this 100% recyclable polymer with a non-toxic coloring. So somehow it was a way to bring like a contemporary sustainability to the collection and how to mix it with batik, which is a totally unusual way. Here we have one of like a hand that's a it's called ATBM. It's a handmade weaving fabric with the batik on top. So we have like silks and handmade process and paradas details with golden lines on batik, and then we mix it with a total like new piece, which is these polymers that it's plastic. It's a polymer, so it's basically handmade. The way to build it, the way to mix it to the batik and find the balance with it. Every piece created for this collection was tailored for every model. So because
fits beautifully.
Yes, that's actually, for example, the that's a bodysuit. So it was batik bodysuit with really long sleeves, and then we have this really structured. It's quite heavy though. The polymer skirt, which is it has sections, so it has to be made pleat by pleat to build all the. So that's made stripe per stripe per stripe, and it's beautiful how they're like the whole look just took place, and it's just like okay, here's the batik and here's this really strong polymer, but together they look fantastic. Like they look
it looks amazing.
consonants to
The silhouette.
to
I really love the silhouette for this whole collection.
Thank you so much. That's really important because that's one of the main things that I'm challenging the market here. It's about finding a new silhouette in batik, finding a fresher image with batik, because the concept of batik being really traditional, really formal, for like really specific occasions that people make it an obligation, not a pleasure in certain ways, more for like really young generations. This is this is basically my proposal to give them an attractive option to say like, look, this is a piece for fashion that is made with your traditional design. So no worries. You can be playful, you can be young, you can be proud of your heritage, and this is what I'm able to give to you as a designer. This piece is very particular. For example, like the farmering gown that I did with the red batik, it was quite controversial because separate pieces, they are totally different stuff. But when they get together, it creates a full look of like this Miss in Indonesian style, like this Putik Indonesian style of aesthetic, which it also bring it like, it's not like the normal kebaya traditional thing that we would have in like Putik Indonesia or something like that. It's something that is out of like what they commonly have. So you can wear that for any event, like, I mean, considering the fact that it's a gown, um, for any formal event, it will work. And it's something that is, it was the first time collaborating of this company making this these polymers to being used for fashion. And of course, there is always a way to give a new perspective for men to use fashion. I did, besides these two looks, these are like they're like brothers jackets. This is how far Batik can be in terms of production. It's really complicated to build a like one motif, like one batik, same color in like 5 pieces. So what is possible is to bring the same motif, the similarity of a different palette of colors. So that's also what I'm representing in these suits, because then we have the same motif and same structure of construction, but then we have the pink version and the black version. So that's basically how close we can do to make like almost the same piece. It's almost impossible to make the same piece in batik. I mean, we are talking about a piece that is handmade, that it has, I mean, people might call it like they have like effects, but it's basically what brings the naturality and like the raw aspect of something truly made by hand, and with that precision and with that finesse on like as an aspect of how to create a garment, you know. So
yes, of course,
it's really important to keep the journey of working with batik in this way, that people, I mean, it's a new world for that. I have no, I mean, as a foreigner, like I came here 7 years ago, so I might not have the knowledge if like socially something like this was happening before in Indonesia and then it disappeared. But it's a space where people nowadays don't have where to play, and that's where I am here to say there is a new option, there's a new way, there is a new there is a different way to think and to present yourself as heritage, as traditional, as cultural, that it doesn't have to be in a piece from that is not adequate from what you think and how you feel, or like how playful or how sexy or how like how are you open to communicate through your fashion, no? So that's basically yes. No worries.
I definitely see like the innovation in your designs compared to like the other traditional batik brands that I've seen. You know, I see what you're trying to do, trying to give like a brand that would be more young, so that, you know, the new generation of Indonesians can really truly appreciate batik. So, you know, I love also the suits that you've done. I barely see batik suits. So it's glad to see that out there. And, you know, I just thoroughly enjoyed that video you put together. And, you know, I wish you all the best for your brand. And why don't we get started on the talk show?
Sure.
Okay. So Tobias, if you could play the presentation, we would start with the topic for today, batik. So it's an industry not only for locals, as we all know. I mean, you're flourishing in the batik industry right now.
Correct.
I'm sure like a lot of people know who Yusuf Hadino is. I mean, most of my friends also know, and they're very familiar with you as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Please start.
So one of the bases of this talk show, besides communicating people interested in the fashion industry, also like for the new students and people who is willing to produce batik, it's important to have the knowledge. Also as a customer, it's like important to have the knowledge of what's going on with your piece, like what is all the process that you have to go through to present a dress made in batik, because most of people, they look at the dress, they look at the finished piece, and they're like, oh, it's a cool piece, but they have no idea what is the
They don't
background
know.
behind, no. And that's when like I bring this space for like this the comprehensive process of batik. It's like you need to be able to base your research on, as I mean, as every creative, like we all do a research on materials, on textiles, on techniques, on what's happening for what we're going to create. Like when we have the idea of like where to go production wise, and creating the campaign for the collection. Um, but it's important when you work with batik to keep the fact that you have to solidify a research on like how is the aesthetic of the batik that you're working about, like what is the history that every motif that you're using around, like some of the pieces are contemporary made, some of the pieces are mixing, like nowadays there is a lot of ways to like mix motifs. So
Yeah.
it's like you have to like understand like where are you going, how are you playing, like to have um kind of like the knowledge of like what what is the cultural meaning for it, what is the impacts like on the society. Also as a creative, like when you have a special piece to make for a customer, or like a tailor piece, um somehow it's important to understand like what is your customer environment, like what is your market environment, like what are you creating those pieces for. So then you decide if you go like royal traditional batik, for example, or that you go more colorful and then you go to the coast, or you are able to use Sumatranese batik, for example, like I don't know, Jambi, or it depends on like what is the twist that you want to create for the collection. And it's important because then that's the base that is going to give you the space to say like, okay, starting from this point I can create this type of collection with using these motifs and these materials made with batik, or this type of colorings represent like certain like certain spaces for what is the final product going to be. So I mean, in my case, I have to be really careful with that, because I mean, an Indonesian will say that they can widely play with the fact of an error, of a mistake of a pattern, or a mistake of a motif. But as a foreigner, you have to be like really cautious, because you are giving an information like inside and also abroad, like you're giving a worldwide information about like what is the batik about. So it's really particular, because you carry a responsibility of bringing the right knowledge where it should go. And yeah, it's one of the not it's not a challenge, but it it is what it presents you to batik as a creative. It's what it gives you the spectrum of saying, look, this is what I want to make, but this is the batik that I have. So that is where you start to say like, okay, I can adapt certain designs to these kind of pieces. Or sometimes they're like, no, for this collection, I cannot use this motif, or I cannot use these colors, because it's not consonance, it's not congruent to what it will be. Then
And how do you usually base your designs in respect with the cultural aspects of batik?
um so there are there are few aspects of it, no? Then the designs, I mean, it depends. If I have the chance to create the motif, I did in 2016 a collaboration with the Mexican embassy to start my project to create the influence in Latin America, the influence of Latin America in batik. So because once you start studying batik, you are like, oh, you see like, oh, the Japanese era and the Indian era and the Chinese era, and it's beautiful, but it I mean, it wasn't on a friendly basis. So somehow my project is to bring it like, okay, let me bring an international relation between Latin America and Indonesia to create motifs that are related to Latin American heritage, Latin American cultures, into the batik technique production. So I did that for the first time was with the Mexican embassy to create a motif. It's called a Tenango motif. It's from Hidalgo region, if I'm not mistaken, in Mexico. So that was like, that's a way where I can bring a new design into batik. There is also a way where I can redesign the Indonesian motif, like you change the structures, the sizings, the coloring, you mix different regions, like the coloring of one region and the motif of another region into a collection, or I play with the real traditional piece for the collection. So they have three different aspects on designing. I have the power to place the culture on the collection. On the second one, I have the space to twist the senses of what I want to make for the collection. But the third one, I have to be like really careful and be really, really respectful on what I'm making, like in order to like pay the homage of what the batik represents, but at the same time give to that batik the identity of the brand that I am making right now.
Okay, I just want to give a little message for the Indonesian viewers just for one moment. Jadi kalian yang lagi nonton dan ada pertanyaan bisa langsung aja kirim di live chat yang ada di YouTube. Ntar aku bisa nanya langsung ke Yesus Hadeno, nggak apa-apa di bahasa Indonesia atau bahasa Inggris, ntar aku bisa translate aja langsung buat kalian ya. Jadi kalau ada pertanyaan langsung aja di chat YouTube. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about your design process when creating batik? Where do you get your inspiration from?
Creating like it's funny. Sometimes there are some stories that are created outside the batik world, and then what I do is like I incorporate the pieces. That's when I try to work with like really traditional pieces to see like, okay, these two words, they have to like match together. They have to like bind themselves together, which is a way. But sometimes I just place the batik on the wall and I just sit for hours. The same way, like you go to a museum, you sit on a painting and you like study the painting to see like, okay, these are the details, these things. It's like, it's the same way because at the end of the day, someone is going to be moving with that painting all around the place. Like they're going to arrive with a piece of art on the clothing. They're going to be on a cocktail, on an event, on a wedding, on a meeting, and they're going to be like moving all around that painting, and the painting is going to have motion. So you will have to see like how the motif, where the motif should be placed in the dress, for when the movement is created, that motif like brings life the piece and accompany the person, accompany the customer and the occasion. So all that things happens in a second when you're pushing yourself in front of the fabric, and like all that things just bloom away to create a new collection. It's beautiful to like see the transition when you like when you create a piece, and whenever you're gonna start making the design in the batik, somehow that batik it already took place on the dress. So you already know like how it's going to look, how it's going to like find the right balance to make the movement of the image of the look. It changes every second, it changes in every motif, it changes in every design. If you want to go like something subtle and something calming and romantic and so on, which Batik is really good at it. But it's also possible to make something really strong, really powerful, and really sexy. So I love to play with those things for my line. I think it's somehow bringing a space for empowering women to worldwide to wear what they please and what they like and how they feel comfortable and happy with it. And it's really important. I mean, no matter your position or your cultures or your religion choices, um, you would always find a way to wear a piece from Jesus Año and find yourself good in it, like placed in it. You know, that's what it gives me like the focus of creating like all like how to start all this process to create a piece and to create a collection. It's based on comfort, it's luxury, um, but it's creating on comfort. It's making a piece that it will make you look good, but it makes you feel good, and it will give you the space for you to be whoever you want to be. You know, that's basically one of the main goals of it. Yeah.
Okay, that's beautiful. And okay, so what about the technical process of using batik for garments? I imagine it's hard to place patterns on, on a woman figure, so it must be kind of tricky.
Yes. So that's one of the most challenging parts as a designer and as a technician when you create the garment, because there are so many factors at the moment when you have to cut and you have to build it like properly the piece. So depending on the size of the garment you're going to produce, also the length, you have a different weight. Like normally, like on normal fabric basis, you cut by the length of the meters of production. In batik, you cannot do that basically because the motif is not on that frame. So you have to basically play with the frame of that batik gives you. And then from that, like you start like distributing like all along the batik, all the pieces of the patterns to make it like sometimes to match or like sometimes to like disturb the motif from what it is. It depends on what's your goal. If you want to make it like a symmetric lineup, it's really complicated. It's not impossible. It just takes time and it takes like a really focused dedication because you have to count really proper how the motifs will match, mostly with like royal batik, like cutting and ensembling parangs, kabuns, like all the really traditional motifs. Like it's really geometrical. So as more geometrical the batik is, as more complicated it is to like ensemble it together. That's what's happening right now with like now people just have this ola cameja, like you can buy the batik with the shape of like with the spaces like to place patterns for shirts. But when you have to produce those patterns for dresses, then the pattern will change per design. So at the end of the day, you will make 3 times longer the time of production of a garment rather than actually playing with the batik piece instead. Also because then it gives a total different sense of batik. It will make you produce on with a batik technique, but it's not like you're actually using batik. It's like you are modifying batik until the sense of only for the design. I mean, also it gives you like, because what you're going to have as wastage is not going to be useful. It's not going to be properly useful for any other piece. So it makes a like an empty wastage there. You won't make use of that space. So when that piece is going for, like for example, you have all the patterns, what I do is like I place the whole batik in a table lamp, a light table. So it's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
projected
table.
light table.
Light box.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I just place the batik, and then there I can count like how the motif will be placing in every single cut. So it's not like I will put the batik, we put everything here, and then we put everything down, and we make it. If you don't really calculate that, the batik won't, like, they don't have to match, but it won't be symmetric. So it will be like
Yeah.
really messy at the time of the
Yeah.
cutting. And it's really important because this is a really, like, image wise, it's a really heavy design, it's a really heavy picture, you know? So trying to bring it as symmetrical as possible, as clean as possible, it makes smoother the fact of the reception of people of the printing, because if not, it's really shocking. Like if you have a really heavy printing and then it's not organized. So it's kind of like OCD moments, but it's better when you have something full of print with a really good order, rather than something really messy. It doesn't bring like a good first impression of what the garment we ended up being looking like. So that's a really technical point on like how to build garments with batik. And it's really important because then you have to be really respectful of which motifs are you using, and like where and how they should be placed. Like it's not like you have a motif and then you change the angle of, like, you put something where it shouldn't be. Like somehow working with batik, you have to be really careful on that you're not playing with a regular print. You're playing with a print that is, it has a whole of background. It's a heritage craft. So you have to be really careful on how to cut the piece, how to assemble the piece. Like, of course, if your idea is to deconstruct the rational size, like the rational line of the batik, like if you want to say like, no, I'm gonna move the batik like 90 centimeters of what it should be, or like I'm gonna do it like 35 degrees more like what it should the motif be. It's all about like the perspective of the creation, and like how do you want to present it and why do you want to make it that way. But like honestly, it's really important to keep that space in a respectful way, because at the end of the day, it's, as I told you, it's an artist that will walk away, that will walk everywhere, that it will move. So people will get, I mean, people approach you, people is like, hey, what is that? And in terms of fashion, yeah, one thing is to cut properly a piece of clothing, and the other one is to cut properly a motif, a print, you know. So that those make two things really important, and you have to like you have to sometimes, like, I kind of like bend a little bit the rules of like how to cut properly a piece of clothing in order to don't affect the motif, because at the end of the day, the motif is, I mean, it doesn't affect, like, the bending doesn't affect the movement of the piece, or like it doesn't affect the finishing of the piece. But the idea is that it doesn't affect, like, visually how the motif should exactly be, or like traditional wise, like how it was designed for. So yeah, that's a quite tough, tricky part, but it's not impossible. It's quite, you just need to be quite cautious about it.
Of course, yes. I assume when you're working with batik, I mean, these are very intricate, delicate patterns, right? And you have to kind of harmonize them and have some sort of balance in the garment, just to make sure they work together and they work with, the cut that you're making with the garment.
Yeah, and it's important to don't. So whenever you build, the balance can go whatever you go with the collection, as a, once again, as a creative that's really there is not a constant about it, but for me, I need to I always focus on the fact that I won't let anything overlap the batik. So the fact that I'm working with batik is the fact that batik is always going to be the main focus of the piece, and then I will create around what it will support the batik or what it will give like around, like surround that that image of like the motifs, the patterns, the colors, and so on. But yeah, it's basically like how to bring an image and like to pull it up, don't push it, because then you're gonna make a waste out of a print that is
Out of
being
the fabric, yeah.
being produced for like 6-8 months by a local, sometimes
Yeah.
3-4 persons, sometimes a piece travel 3-4 cities to be made. So I mean, we need to be respectful in that sense of what is a garment.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Oh, can we move on to the next topic, which is exclusivity, branding facts of the use of batik in fashion.
That's really particular. So batik productions, as I just mentioned it before, batik productions are a single production. It's not the fact that the fabric cannot be like copied. You cannot reproduce 3 pieces of the same batik. You can only make one. You can make the same one, like you can make the same motif in the same color palette, but I'm sure the palette is not going to be on the same tone. The motif is not going to match from one to another. It will always bring like a minimum difference. I mean, sometimes it will be like a really teeny tiny difference depending on like the finesse of the production of batik, but it will never be the same. So that will give the fact that
it can't be duplicated.
no, whenever you produce a batik piece, it's one. It's one of those, it's one in a kind. Even though you produce a collection that it looks like the same motif or the same color or the same like the same palette on the combination of what you make it, it will never be the same. So that will give like a power of like the slow, like I mean, it brings it to a really slow fashion space, which is like nowadays is really cool because like people is talking about sustainability and like the power of slow fashion against damaging like the environment with like these massive productions. So it gives you somehow like that space to play as a brand. Say like, look, one dress, and it sometimes comes to me the fact that a client comes like, I want that dress, and I'm like, I can make you something like that. The collections made for the runway shows are collections that I try to make like a little bit expand, like I can expand it, I can resize it, but I cannot totally modify to a different new size, because that's what it is. It's part also of like keeping the motif in the way it's created. So that gives a fact of one piece, one batik, and it's not able to be placed in any other in any other character. So that actually gives a real exclusivity point. It's not being exclusive because it's a popular brand or it's I don't know, a brand that it's been for years and it's placed in the market in different ways. This is a real honest exclusivity of creating a fashion. This is not something that is exclusive because it's expensive. No, it's exclusive because it's really meant to be owned by only one person. It's not like 3 persons are going to have the same dress. So that gives like a really total way of using batik for fashion. Like you can do jackets and you can do like an oversized jacket that a lot of people can place and wear. So it's going to be easier to sell and to promote. But like when you're talking about tailoring dresses, it's one piece. And that's not gonna change.
So is that what you're selling to your customers, the exclusivity? So they only they have a one of a kind piece. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't make any duplicates.
No. Sadly, no.
Okay.
I mean, it's not possible to make it. First of all, the design is always the design of the piece and design of the dress. It can apply to different types of motif and different types of batik. But the piece instead, once you achieve the whole look where the design and the motif get together and create a beautiful piece, that's going to be only that one. And that's one of the most important things that I let know my customers and I want to let know people about my brand is the fact that you're always going to have a piece that is going to be yours. It's going to be only in your wardrobe. It's going to be only part of your wardrobe. Like you won't find, for example, the dress that you're having there on the display. It's only one piece. It's only that dress. Like I can make that dress in any other batik, but that will be a totally different dress. It will change the concept of the dress. It will change the temperature of the dress. It will change everything. So you won't have, even though you have a same cut, you won't have the same dress. So yeah, that's a really important point to make to every customer and to make to every creative and to make to every designer. The fact that when you're playing with real batik, when you're playing with handmade batik, you're playing with an exclusive piece. That's also give you a bit of a responsibility, because whenever you build a piece and there is a mistake on that piece, that's why like for batik, I do place dummies before making the actual piece, because you made a mistake in that piece and it's not like, oh, let me buy more fabric and like fix this issue. No, once you pass the scissor, once you cut there, that's where the piece is going to be. So that's also give you like a hands-on responsibility of like, be careful. You chop it wrong, bye batik.
It's very meticulous when it comes to batik.
Yes.
So how did you yourself grow your brand, your batik brand in Indonesia, especially as a foreigner?
It was quite particular. When I came to Indonesia, when I moved from Jogja to Jakarta, I mean, as a foreigner, like you are in certain spaces where you connect to people, and like talking about it, they were like always like, oh yeah, like I have to once again the responsibility of society. I have to have a batik shirt, but they never fit, or they are too short, or they are too long, or they are too baggy. So in certain ways, there was an opportunity to start creating tailoring pieces for example, for men for shirts, because there is a different proportion on the basis of the patterns of Indonesian productions. And at the same time, for women to say like, I like the fabric, I like the print, I like to see the print. It's a really playful print. Like I would like to wear something like that, but the cut is not, I don't feel connected with the cut of the dress. Sometimes or it's too loose, or it's too baggy, or it's too close or is too long. So somehow that gave me the say like, okay, there is a hole in the market where I can start from there and say like, okay, whenever you need a piece, here I am. Until nowadays, that's one of the biggest customers that I have. Like, Jesus, I'm sorry, like there is a piece. I need a piece. Like, can I just check what do you have in your collection that I can wear that it fits me? Or if not, they just come to um, request a tailor piece, like just meant to be for them, because it's not available in the market. Like a good quality batik in their sizes and um, like easy for them to choose to say like, look, this is what I want, and to give them options and opportunities. Also to give them the information, because some people just want to have a piece of batik and they have no idea what are they wearing, or like for which occasions do they have to wear those type of batik, or like how to place it, in their plan of the wardrobe. So that's one of the missions that I have as a brand, to give the customer the fact that saying like, look, these are the type of motifs that you can use for these events or for these meetings or for these spaces. And then from there, we start with the motif that they like, or the color or the region that they like. And then from there, we start with the designing. And then from there, I give them the options like, okay, with this type of motifs, I can create this type of dresses for you. And then I can give you these options of silhouette for using these batiks or using the material. So that's how it goes. That's how it is played.
Okay, and so what is the batik industry like here?
Wow. So there is in the moment, well, an experience of an eye of the last 7 years in Indonesia. It's a really traditional um, space. So it works and it plays in really locals and heritage spaces and so on and so on, but it doesn't give, it has only one alternative. Like for nowadays, batik is only one alternative. Even for men, it's one, like two options of like a shirt, a really straight shirt. It doesn't have like that much of alterations, and then you have short sleeve, long sleeve. That's it. And then on the side of the women, it's basically a fashion that is on a really sectorist age, which I mean we can understand for the level of the target of batik, but like nowadays, even young people are interested in luxury goods. So
Definitely.
it's really really to see that the market is only sectorized for really traditional call it here tante tante and ibu ibu, and it doesn't give like a fresher approach, it's really stuck in there. And it's, I mean, there are like few designs in terms of cuts and silhouettes. There are like few designs and everything. It's really loosey, really baggy, really that. I mean, it's up to everyone to choose which cut or which silhouette they want to wear and they feel pleased to wear. I'm just here to give a different perspective of something that I don't find attractive, that I don't find powerful for women to wear, but it's up to everyone's perceptions, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're just filling a gap in the market, say, for the batik industry.
It's particular, like being in the batik industry in Indonesia as a foreigner is it's not an easy job, because you have like you have two lines, you have like two masses of people. You have the side that says like it is really good the fact that you're working for Indonesian heritage, you're working for Indonesian culture, like you're in love of what you do in Indonesia. And thank you so much and welcome to do whatever you do. Some of them are even ashamed. They're like, oh my God, I feel bad. Like as an Indonesian, there is a foreigner teaching me like about Batik and so on, which I mean, the fact that you're like national, you don't doesn't mean you have to be specialized in Batik. I came here because I like it and I specialize in that. That's what I like to do. But on the other side, there is a lot of people who are like, "Hey, why are you playing with my heritage? Why are you playing with my culture and my fabrics and my and like sometimes they have like this feeling of like I am here to like steal the motif, but like steal the batik and the technique and so on. But at the end of the day, batik is like somehow it went to the point where it's an intangible heritage of humanity. So it's a piece, it's a craftsmanship that is meant to be shared all around the world. And the fact that it's positioned right now there, it gives me the space to say like, look, it's Indonesian. It belongs. It's created from Indonesia, but as a creative, I would like to just come to Indonesia and experiment with this beautiful heritage that now it's meant to be spread all around the world. And I'm just one of those voices who is interested, first of all, who's in love, first of all, of what Batik is, and who one of his missions right now is to spread information of what the motive is about, what Batik is about, and like all the characters that accompany this craft. So it's an everyday journey. It's like sometimes people is like, I mean, you will find it in a sweet position on a really rejective position. They're both really useful because they're both keep you going. I mean, the fact that someone is pleased to have you here as a batik creator, as a batik designer, it gives you like the sweetness of, okay, I'm going to be here like developing the best as I can to give you the best of information that I could possibly give you. And on the other side, when I have these really rejective positions, it's more to demonstrate the fact that I am here involved with all the story about Batik in a really honest way. Like I'm here to develop Batik, giving to this craftsmanship like the best space possible without damaging it. So it gives like a flow where I play every day of like I am creating, I'm not damaging, but whoever is welcome, whomever is welcome to join and to have this knowledge. It's not like I am a fantastically not like I don't have a wide knowledge about what Batik is because it's a huge universe. And but yeah, I try to cover as much as I am interested into for the moment and like how the experiences and the new projects are coming. There are new things that comes to my hands, and that's exactly what I am willing to express and to expand as an information for my people.
Definitely. You know, I understand it can be like quite controversial to the public seeing foreigner making batik in, you know, in their own country. But like I understand as a creative and a fashion designer myself, you know, you're simply just trying to take Indonesia's heritage and put it out there and give it, you know, its own space as something else, as something new. So I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, can we move on to the next slide,
Sure.
which is sustainability?
Sustainability, the new trends of topics of the world.
Oh, yes, of course. Sustainability is the future, isn't it?
Yes. Wow. Um, it's it's sometimes funny to feel the fact that new brands, new like entrepreneurs, new designers always fight against this sustainability, while those huge big corporations, they just throw like, oh, this is our sustainable
Oh yeah.
collection,
Mhm.
and
It's just for the marketing.
yeah, and there is a lot of hypocrite places in the market where you say like, oh, like we also have a sustainable
Sustainable line. Yeah.
exactly, but at the end of the day they're not willing to be sustainable, and that's not going to stop,
Definitely.
and now they just, I mean, they just put it on the label like, oh, this is a sustainable piece of clothing, because instead of paying $3, now we're paying $3.20. So
Yeah, or maybe even $30.
yeah, but at
Uh-huh.
the end of the day, that's not what sustainability is about. That's not like ending having a product that it doesn't affect productions, it doesn't affect the whole chain which is behind of it,
Yeah.
and it doesn't affect the future of like what the piece will be doing.
And it's still not ethical, is it?
Well, sad to say, it's not, but I mean, sometimes people just say like business is business, and they just try to like arrange that side of their success out of whatever is just profitable, not what is not what is the right thing to do. And somehow, like this is one of the biggest points of discussions, with the fact that I'm holding a brand that I'm trying to keep it as much sustainable as possible. It's not like, oh, I'm not gonna tell you that I have a sustainable brand, because it's really complicated to make something like 100% sustainable. But to keep the fact that, I mean, whenever you create collections, whenever you create collections made with batik, you keep the productions on a natural coloring, a natural processing. Batik is a really environmental friendly. Once you create batik on natural coloring, it's a really like environment friendly. I mean, it's not like you're going to produce like you don't cause a deforestation to make indigo batik. And I mean there's different ways. Also, the fact that one of the points of wastage in batik is really particular, because you're playing with two things. One of them, yeah, it's the fact of like, what are you using after, like what are you doing after with your wastage? But at the same time, is that wastage, it's a piece of space where a crafter was there for days, was there for weeks working on that. That is, it's not, it has a story in it. So it's not something you just cut and like, and you throw it, you put it on a bag. It's a piece that you need to use in order to actually give a respectful space for the whole chain, to bring an ethical situation and an ethical production to what Batik is about, That's
to honor them.
I mean, it's a marketing game for some people and for some brands, but at the same time, it's a serious topic for some people who has the power right now, like to make a collection, to make a brand, to make a line that respects that space for human, that will also make, I mean, the fact that Batik is even included as a slow, like a slow fashion, like it brings the power to the exclusivity, and it brings that's what I was explaining earlier, like it gives the power of exclusivity, but it also gives you a power of keeping your brand sustainable, keeping your brand like with the less impact to the environment as possible, and the less impact to damage. Like it's like your crew is your brand, and like you leave yourself together. You don't damage anything in order to make something out of it, or to make something profitable. That also will move totally the price range of a piece. But once you create something in that space of sustainability, that creates also a space of luxury on a piece. So I mean, that's a point where you give more to the fact that you are bringing a natural exclusivity to your brand, that rather than being fashionable and trendy and like throwing tons and tons of materials into waste that is never going to be reused.
Yeah. So is batik in general, is it like a sustainable form of, print?
If you keep batik in natural colorings, is sustainable. Handmade batik is it is a sustainable print. There is also like the commercial industrial way to produce batik, which is not batik. It's basically like the batik motifs just printed massively industrially. Of course, that's not like, well, they might have their criteria to claim some spaces as sustainability, but the real batik, the handmade batik is really sustainable. It's it's a craft that is totally handmade. It's a craft that is based on teeth and natural colorings, like boiling roots, and it doesn't, and it's also not that you need to like chop half of the Amazonas to produce batik. So you don't have to burn anything more than some wood and like just put on fire to boil batik and like cook batik. Yeah, it's really cool because it's a really sustainable material.
Okay, that's great. And how would you usually reduce your fabric wastage when creating fabric? Because I know, again, in respect to the patterns, there's a lot of like pattern placement that you have to consider. And I know, like, when it comes to making garments, or especially fitted garments, there's a lot of wastage when it comes to that.
Yeah, well, so there are two ways, because mostly with batik, the fact that you have to like place the motifs all around the fabric, it's not like we use 1 meter and then we have the other meter saved for something. No, you have to place different patterns like everywhere, and then that gives you like a really messy like piece of clothing. You have like chops everywhere and holes everywhere, so it's not like an organized wastage. But like what I do from there is like, that's when these two lines of what I'm doing comes. They are the lines that supports the wastage of the material. Like, I don't throw batik because for me it's a sin to throw batik. It's a handmade. It's a piece that is being made for 6 months to just chop it and throw it in a box. So
somebody's hard work.
Yeah, from that it born these two lines. It born the clutches line that I am producing, and now I'm developing a home linen. So we will have Sucedania home, which is cushions line, and then from that wastage, if it's big enough to place a cushion, then we go for the cushion, and if not, we place it for the clutch. But then the clutch has 4 pieces, so then I have to make sure that it fits for a full clutch, or like sometimes it's combining with another materials to just build the clutch. I mean, these two lines also runs with their own batiks. Like I have, but like these pieces are not only made by wastage. Like I have smaller pieces of batik to develop the home line and the clutches line, but they are the the lines that I use to support the wastage of what it goes from the collections, what it goes from the runway pieces, to try to control the fact that, to minimize the fact of wastage. Now I'm gonna do a really small home project of so the teeny tiny pieces that you have, I'm gonna just try to make like patchworks to make table lines,
like a kilt.
kinda. The idea is to to use the 100% of the batik. It's almost impossible,
Yeah.
but I mean, you never know. Like, you can just place it in. That's what also the accessory lines will go. I can't give details about it because I'm still working on it, but it's also somehow to give like part of those wastage pieces to accessorize. So let's see. I mean, in the future, those waste, I mean, it will be a line, as always, is a line made out of wastage and in particular batiks. So now for the cushions for the next project, I'm already designing the cushion. So I won't produce a wastage out of it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to design what the cushion is going to be, and then we produce cushion by cushion.
So 100% of the fabric will be used.
Exactly. So then, like, we chop all the, like, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna buy a 2.5 meters batik or the 3 meters batik. No, it's going to be a line that is going to be controlled per piece. It's, I mean, it's not easy to do that with dresses, because then you have like different cuts and different lines and different chops. But that's what that's what I have, these two things to support the fact that I'm not going to throw such an like heavy heritage and important fine fabric as batik it is. I'm going to just transform it on some other pieces to just don't throw it. That's basically it. And one of the ideas of, because sometimes people just try to like keep their chops and keep their, like, the rest of the fabrics, they have it for, I don't know, a patchwork shirt or a patchwork jacket. But it's important, like, batik gives you really good space to make something good out of it and something clean out of it. When I started creating the clutches, I was like, I want something in the size that I can actually fit it in different spaces all around the fabric. It will respect the motif, but it will give me the space to like to keep the rest of the cloths that I have, to just keep them at minimum, and just to say like, okay, now I have like 2 stripes of batik. Cool. That's always the goal. It's a really important goal.
Yeah. Oh, and anyways, it seems really interesting, the whole upcycling and reusing batik to make home products. And not only is this like a much more sustainable way to reuse the fabric, but I feel like in regards to COVID, this is also good for business, right? And as we get into that, can we jump into the next slide?
Sure.
Okay, great. So the impact of COVID in batik brands, could you tell us a little bit about, how this past year has been for you too, in particularly?
There is definitely a big issue among the fashion business. Like, that's nothing new that comes right now to the point. But in Indonesia, like right now in Indonesia, there are certain formal occasions that are still up, like people are still going to weddings. At the beginning, there were like
Yeah.
online weddings. Now, like
Mhm.
what is socially accepted is like to go to weddings. So people wear batik most of the time for weddings in a really formal way, but there is a space of batik usage still during these times.
Mhm. Okay.
Um, there are brands who make loungewear, so you can just work from home and like have like a chill, like a way to just present batik for like homeware, like loungewear and so on.
Mhm.
Which is, I mean, it's interesting to see it like on a urban basis and loungewear basis because it's normally a piece that it brings like a really big formality and like
Mhm.
it's anyways it's batik. Um, particular last year, I was just creating all these collections, like to use the time to work on the campaigns, on the branding, and on spreading the knowledge about batik and like keeping the hope of the people that this is what we create and this is what you will be able to order, purchase, and have safe for you to the moment when batik comes when everything comes back to normal uses, then you will be able to play with pieces that you like, and then you will have to like you would like to have to wear outside. I think it's going to be a like our next as every creative, as every business people in the different fields. That's going to be our next job, is to like work on people's fear to go out, on people's fear to have a physical a physical connection again. And now more than everything, it's online. It's really personal. So now it's going to be our hard work to like bring them back, bring back those moments when humans are connected physically and they are cool to be connected physically, and that's what that's where fashion plays a big space, where you bring you help that person, that customer, to bring a language of what they are like all around. In the meantime, well, we will have to just keep finding these new possibilities of business to that I mean, I didn't expect to have a home line 2 years ago that soon. I mean, I always thought about it. I was like, it would be cool to have like some pieces where you can decorate your house out of batik, and it doesn't have to be like a table runner or like I don't know, a batik hang on a wall. And then now, due to COVID and everyone at home and everyone just chilling in their places and working in their places, it's like, well, let me try to bring an opportunity to, you know, to give
Yeah. To
a,
spice
a
up the
little
house.
bit, yeah, a little bit of that heritage and a little bit of like that image and that work of what I do with batik to their houses, you know? So now we have new options.
That's great. And how about well, since most of your batik is, I'd say, formal or evening wear, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Has it,
most of the batik that I created for, because it was originally, as I mentioned earlier, it was originally created for a market of foreigners, diplomats, for national days, for formal events, for diplomatic gathering. That's how everything started. So somehow it turned into a really formal line that I like to keep that way. I like to create for um, evening wear, cocktails, formals. The fact that including the men's collection last year was a big movement. Like, it's funny that people just come and ask me like, "Oh, you also do men's clothing?" I'm like, "Yes." I mean, I specialize in clothing like widely. I can make um, culture dresses, gowns, suits, jackets. I mean, it's it doesn't. I don't have a range on what I can play, but for now the brand is quite focused on keeping their formal basis, because also it's somehow like, what is the mission about like giving the new impression of what is the garments you can actually wear for formal events, and it doesn't have to be like that square blouse or square dress made out of batik that no one wants to wear, but they have to wear it. Like, it's somehow to fight the perspective of want and have to. That's basically why we're keeping the line this way.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the tricky bit when it comes to the whole pandemic, because you were selling formal wear, and
Yeah.
everyone's just spending time at home. But it's good to hear about the home brand launching. So congrats on that. Hope it takes off.
Thank you.
Would you like to add anything else? For today's talk show before we go to the conclusion?
I think it's I mean, for everyone who is listening to this talk show, and for everyone who will in the future find this material somewhere around the world, it's like, keep your eyes open and your mind open to have new choices in fashion. And on this side of the world, we are creating and we are promoting this beautiful heritage, which is called batik. It's a beautiful technique of a printing, and it's a handmade, historical, and really solid heritage that we are trying to promote here. And it's actually a beautiful journey to work for it. And please, most welcome to just enjoy the batik world anytime you want to have a piece, read about it, and like enjoy all these motifs. If you are interested in history, there you have a space. If you are interested in the anthropological development of batik, there you have a space. If you're interested in, if you're a person that loves languages, there you have a space of like all the languages that are being in batik. For politicians, then you have all the history line of like how batik accompany the different types and the different moments of era of the politics, and like how the messages are included in the motifs. Of course, for artists, welcome to this huge universe of what this heritage and this craft is about. I mean, it involves a huge range of interests. If you like to travel, then you can travel with batik. Like, there are different regions, different motifs, different colors, different stories, different families, different traditions. So yeah, there is a whole world there just saved in a really remote areas that we are trying to support, that we are trying to bring out and put it in the place they deserve to be, because it's an important, it's a beautiful craft that it has a beautiful value, and I think people should have a wider knowledge about what this is, and how they can play with it. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm here, and I will still be here promoting and developing batik. And now in the future, it doesn't matter like if pandemics comes around and social crisis comes around and economical crisis comes around, there is always going to be a way to keep up and like keep moving. And and keep this journey up. That's what I think.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Giving the artisans the limelight they deserve, right? Definitely. Okay, now can we move on to the question and answer section of the talk show?
Sure, of course.
Okay, lovely. All right, so the first question we have here is, who is your favorite batik designer, and you can't say yourself?
Batik designer. Wow, there is a hotbox studio. So there are many. There are many. There is a beautiful artisan in Yogyakarta called Bayu Arya. He develops a beautiful painting batik. He's basically on painting batik. So it's one of my favorites. I also but at the same time I also have Jambi is one of my favorite colorings batiks, and it's one of my favorite batiks also. Madura, I love the coloring process also for Madura, and the batik Madura is also one of my favorites around. But that, I mean, there are different types of batik, but in terms of branding, well, Gotek's one is also like in terms of a brand, it's one of like the most iconic batiks of the new era of batik. But wow, there is a lot. There is a lot.
Yeah. Yes, I can imagine there's a lot. Okay, next one. How do you know the difference between batik tulis and print?
Oh, that's a really easy way to find it. So, for example, the handmade batik is made on a champing. So the champing is a hot wax that has to penetrate the fabric. So that gives you the front face. So it's like penetrating face and leaving face. No. So the front face, it's going to be like a really thick, like a really society, unified. Like now politically is in different spaces, but back in the days when that was created, like this political distribution didn't exist. So yeah, there is Batik in Malaysia. It's originally from a territory where now is Indonesia, but Singapore also has like this Peranakan descendances. And there is also Batik Peranakan in Indonesia. So I mean, it's not centralized. It's impossible to centralize Batik, even though it's coming originally from a territory where now politically it belongs to Indonesia.
And definitely the batik in Malaysia is different from the batik in Indonesia as well.
Yeah, I mean, even though like inside Indonesia, batik is different from region to region. Like what I was saying, like the batik from Jambi is totally different from the batik from Madura, and it's totally different from the batik from Jogja, it's totally different from the batik from Malaysia, and it's totally different from the batik from Africa, and it's totally different from the batik from Latin America. What it makes the formality of batik is like what is basically the origins of the motifs, like what is originally the motifs per culture, not globally. I mean, during Sukarno, like when Sukarno tried to standardize batik, which is basically the batik that we understand right now as what batik it is, it's a different thing that when you go to a region, when you go to a local area, you experience the traditions inside the batik from that location. So yes, of course, Malaysia will have a different motif, and Malaysia will have a different color that might be similar to any of other motifs and any of other colorings. Sure, they all have a relation, they all have a connection. But that's why diversity is about, and that's what batik is about. That's really important to be a knowledge, to like maintain the knowledge of the fact that it's a really diverse space. I mean, the technique is a technique, and even the technique can be amplified to different tools, but the heritage will depend of how is developed locally. Like, what is the culture that you are inserting into batik as a society? And yeah, of course. I mean, now there is the batik Betawi, but people didn't. So, like, we have now motifs and things that they weren't like built before. So there is no reasons to criticize or like point the fact that one belongs to another one. But yeah.
Yes, definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question from the audience. So is there anything you would like to say to the future young batik designers?
Wow. Courage, faith, and patience. To create batik, we will need the patience to let it flow in the time that we are going to develop with it. Courage to create what we want to do it, and to don't be restricted by the actual rules of how to make batik, and like what involved in batik on the fact that as a creative, when this religious or society or political facts just jump on the table to tell you like, no, these are the rules. We have to have the courage to say, no, this is what I want to make. This is what I feel into. And to really have the faith that once you jump into what you want to create, what you want to produce, you're going to be able to develop it. Like, you're going to be able to like go through. You don't need to have certainty of what's going to happen. You just have to have the faith to say like, this is a process that I'm going to be immersed into, and this is a process that I'm willing to do. You just have to be really open to like walk on that path and let yourself go. The batik will show you you will be presenting like it's a common creative process. It's a really common creative process on the way of like the feedback makes you walk further and further and further until the piece is done. And then when the piece is done, you might realize, now I want it on this other way. And then you start another and another and another and another one. And that's basically that how the creative process is about. Like that's why we always keep creating things. Because it's just the matter of enjoying a new path and the matter of enjoying a like that feedback relation with something that is going on outside, that is going on in your environment, that is going on with your friends. Like how do you see them? Like how do they interact? How do you interact with everything that's happening? That it involves for every creative matter, for fashion, for painting, for musicians, for everything. And yeah, it's just like, we have to do it. Let's just do it. No matter like how fake it can be, no matter how troubling everything, like every situation can happen, it happens. And if it happens, it's because we are ready to take it and we are ready to handle it. So we have to embrace it. That's the message.
Oh my gosh. That has been, such great advice, especially to give to young designers. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure they'll like take it in quite well, like personally, and hopefully apply it to the future, to their future. But yeah, I think that would be, that has been a great closing. If there's anything else, do you want to add on to the audience, perhaps?
No, I'm just really thankful for everyone that connect themselves here, and I thanks in advance to everyone that reached this point of the talk show to have all this information about what's actually going on and what are the possibilities of Batik. So thank you so much also for the invitation, for letting me be here and for letting give my point of view and my journey on like what is Batik for me and what is Batik for what I'm doing as the philosophy of the brand, as a mission, as a person, as an artist. So really thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, Jesus, for coming to this talk show with us and sharing so much about your experience, your knowledge. And, we've learned so much today from you and, obviously our audience as well. We really appreciate you taking your time to do this. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to close the show in Indonesian.
Yeah,
okay.
Of course.
Oke, buat semuanya. Buat semuanya udah nonton, terima kasih banyak ya. Yang tadi sudah ngomong barusan itu Yesus Kadeno, Venezuelan designer. Yang ada batik brand di Indonesia, jadi bisa look up aja, ada di Instagram Yesus Kadeno. Nah, buat yang masih nonton, jangan lupa datang ke booth Inifd Indonesia pada pameran ini, yaitu di Hall Nusantara. Dapatkan diskon 50% berupa beasiswa dan baju karya student di link Tokopedia kami Inifd Indonesia. Nah, demikian rangkaian acara hari ini. Jangan lupa setelah talk show ini, besok tanggal 28 April 2021 akan ada talk show dengan tema How to increase sales for your e-commerce by utilizing effective digital marketing strategies dengan Desan Galyadi dari DLI jam 10 pagi. Dan yang kedua, increasing awareness and sales through international IP dengan Chandra Sugiono, owner dari Pavilion Group. Jangan lupa hadiri acara Inifd Mesco Online Expo 2021 pada tanggal 21 sampai 30 April 2021 dan daftar menjadi visitor dan bayar di dalam acara ini dengan kontak langsung ke sosial media kami @inaproduct.com. Inifd Mesco Online Expo 2021. Satu klik, solusi bisnis fashion. Thank you so much for today. I'm Roshni, and this is the end of our talk show for today. Have a good day.
Innovation Smesco Online Expo 2021. Satu klik solusi bisnis fashion. Innovation adalah pameran online internasional yang berfokus pada pengembangan produk ekspor dan peningkatan penjualan produk dalam negeri di industri tekstil dan alas kaki.
Pameran ini dibagi ke dalam 4 kategori: raw material, supporting, ready to wear, dan footwear. Dapatkan berbagai keuntungan di pameran ini. Perluas dan perkuat koneksi bisnis Anda. Temukan brand dan produk Indonesia yang berkualitas. Dapatkan update tren dan market fashion terkini, dan bangun serta kembangkan skill kamu dalam berbisnis fashion. Jelajahi pameran ini dengan berbagai fitur. Temukan exhibitor yang cocok dengan bisnis Anda melalui B2B matching. Realisasikan transaksi bisnis Anda dengan video conference call. Dapatkan produk lokal yang berkualitas dan murah di diskon hall kami. Tingkatkan kemampuan berbisnis Anda dengan mengikuti talkshow dan workshop bersama narasumber dari brand ternama. Nikmati paduan produk-produk lokal Indonesia dalam fashion show. Semua ini gratis loh, Anda tidak perlu kemana-mana, dijamin aman, cepat, dan nyaman. Tunggu apa lagi? Daftar sekarang!
Masak apa nih?
Buat buka puasa dong.
Mau masak apa aja? Digital bisa.
Mau belajar ngaji dulu ah. Belajar ngaji.
Mau belajar ngaji? Digital bisa.
Mau kemana? Mau tausiah dong.
Mau tausiah dari rumah? Digital bisa.
Saat ada kecoa, HP kreditan dihempas mertua. Ambil hikmahnya. Di Blibli Hikmah Ramadan. Bisa beli yang baru, dapat cashback hingga 1 juta rupiah untuk semua produk. Yuk, Blibli sekarang.
Lazada Ramadan Sale ada diskon hingga 90% dan cashback tiap hari. Beli sekarang ya.
Lazada.